an invocation by the Reverend Jackson Brewer, First United Methodist Church, retired. Then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we're reminded today and these days of how much difference a few degrees of weather or too much or a little bit of rain or all the elements of this world, how they affect our lives. And Father, we're reminded also that for most of us it's a matter of inconvenience, but for many people it's a crucial thing. And so tonight, as we come in this air-conditioned place to consider the needs of our community, we pray for your guidance, that we thank you for our commissioners and our mayor and all those who are the staff here, as they remember us and those who are trying to be good citizens, but also those who are really struggling these days. And we thank you for their kindness and their compassion. We pray today that you would give them discernment beyond even their own knowledge, that decisions that are made here would not only help us, that would not only make Frankfort be a stronger place, but would also be pleasing in your sight. We pray this in your holy name. Amen.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Brewer. Thank you. Next, we have a roll call.
Commissioner Wilder.
Here.
Commissioner Hadden. Here. Commissioner Turner.
Here.
Commissioner May.
Here.
Mayor Graham.
Here. All present accounted for. Next item on the agenda is ceremonial items.
Yes, Mayor. We have a ceremonial item this evening. If Public Works would come forward, please. Thank you, Mr. Hackbart.
Yes, this week is Jimmy Trustle's final week at the city. He's retiring Friday, is that correct, Jimmy?
Right.
After 25 years.
25 years.
Jimmy works in our sanitation department, and he's been a very good employee, very loyal and hardworking, and we're going to really miss him at the department. We had a luncheon this afternoon, kind of celebrate his retirement. But Jimmy wanted me to read you all and all the city departments something upon his retirement, so he prepared a statement that I'm going to read for him tonight. To my fellow workers of the sanitation department and other departments of the city that I have come to know, thank you for your kindness and friendship. This is a time of great sadness because I will miss you all very much. You have been like a family to me in my years here. I will miss all the good-humored joking and closeness of just working together as a group. There have been some hard times and some sad times, but they can never overcome the good times we've had together. I wish you all well, and I'll be shouting out at you when I see you. You all can run, but you can't hide from me because, you see, I just can't say goodbye. So I will just say, I hope to see you all again in my future. God bless you all, Jimmy Trussell.
Well, nice, Jim.
Thank you very much and good job. Enjoy your retirement, but not until after Friday.
Congratulations. Okay, Jim, thank you very much for your service, buddy. All right, as I have done on more than one occasion on the agenda, I would skip the minutes to go right into ceremonial items, so I got to go back and cover the minutes. So we'll go back now, pick up the minutes. We have had the May 14th, 2012 work session, May 21st, 2012 special meeting, and the May 30th, 2012 special meeting minutes. Do I have a motion regarding the minutes?
I move that we dispense with the reading of the minutes and accept the minutes as presented.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, you got a second? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder.
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Commissioner May.
Yes.
Mayor Graham.
Yes, so the minutes are approved. All right, and next we're down to citizen comments. And I think most of us want to understand this. We asked that you try to keep the comments to around 5 minutes, you know, give or take a little bit. But, so just when you come to the microphone, please identify yourself for the record. Okay, come up.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate that. My name is Adam Baker with RS Technical Services here in Mount Sterling, Kentucky. This is Kyle Chandler, our director of that same plant. We appreciate your time today. You guys are considering award this evening on item number 7.22, which is for a complete van with CCTV camera equipment. We were one of the 2 responsive bidders, ladies and gentlemen, and we just wanted to point out to you today, first of all, how much we appreciated the opportunity to bid. We are actually not the low bidder. There is actually a $200 difference in price on an item that is roughly $178,000. Okay. We want to point out that we have a history with the city of Frankfort, a history of in-state service. We've been a manufacturer, service center, and a supplier of this type of equipment out of Mount Sterling, Kentucky for the last 13 years under Mr. Chandler's direction. And not to waste any of your valuable time, we appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about it, and we just wanted to point out that in our mind, for the city of Frankfort and for in-state service, the on-site service that we have provided over the years, our systems are not only built within the state of Kentucky 100%, but almost 100% of the supplies are purchased within the state, as well as the chassis itself. We feel like that means an awful lot, provides an awful lot of value, added value to the city of Frankfort, and we hope that, and we respectfully ask that you would take that into consideration when considering this award. And I'd also like to let our director here in Mount Sterling, Kyle Chandler, just say a couple of words about our shop there, and then we'll let you guys move on with your business.
Along with what Mr. Baker said, we employ 8 employees who are Kentucky residents. Their families are, you know, needful of employment, and are, you know, we do take care of them there. We've been there, like he said, about 13 years, and we are dependent. They are dependent upon those jobs, and I just feel like that, you know, our tax dollars are better kept in state if at all possible.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Thank you
your
very
time.
much.
7.22. 7.22.
Okay, any other citizen comments? Okay, whatever. I see 3 hands go up. First one, just come here, then we go from here to here, then back there.
My name is Bobby Chestnut. I represent the other bidder of this TV inspection unit. I have also been a lifetime Kentuckian. As you can kind of see, I didn't prepare to come to this meeting tonight, but the company that I represent, I have used their equipment for 40 years. We've been servicing the city here with service also. We are a local company. We're in Louisville, Kentucky. We've been there for 7 years, and pretty much everything that that goes on, we service there, we sell there. We do on-site service for them, and have been 2 previous units that you had. As far as the employment of people, I employ people in Kentucky also. The chassis, they come from the Chevrolet dealer, wherever it is, whether it's a Ford, Chevrolet, or whatever. That's all in the spec. And again, I appreciate the time that you've given us to come and talk to you all. But as things go in this world, I would appreciate all the considers that we did bid this as a straight up bid towards specs, and the unless the low bidder is of somewhat, I didn't know it was about where the thing was built. We can produce the truck here, but that's not where the factory's at. And most of the equipment that goes in their truck is produced in California, but I don't know if that makes a whole lot of difference. thanks again for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now back.
My name is Steve Sutton. I'm a 17-year employee of the city and a 39-year resident of the city of Frankfort. I'm here tonight basically because of the proposal to remove the spouses from the city health insurance plan, which is included in this year's budget. I've spoken to all of y'all one way or another. I do want to say thank you to all of you who responded, whether we agreed or disagreed. I appreciate your contacting me back. But I'm here tonight to basically say it's a shame that this city is going to propose and allow spouses to be kicked off the health insurance plan. And as you can see, this is already upsetting me. We're talking about a reported savings of around $233,000, which comes out to around 0.007% of a $32 million budget. These reported savings to the city are going to cost those employees, I say lowball, around $3,000 to $4,000, and that's being very conservative. We cut department budgets, which affect employees indirectly. We cut benefits, which affect employees directly. Yet we continue to give away the same amounts of money, if not more. We'll be told that the community is going to take a hit too by having to pay the increased occupational tax, but I'm a city employee. I'm going to get hit by that as well, as all the city employees will, included. I find it quite disgraceful the city sees it fit to pay another $334,000 out of the surplus to pay for the golf course debt. That's $101,000 more than the insurance costs. So if it's truly about cost savings, wouldn't you cut the one that costs you the most? To make matters worse, this proposal was only briefly mentioned in the State Journal in a 2-line sentence. Never once were employees told about this coming, and I truly believe they were never going to be told, and I find that quite low of the city. Once this proposal was brought to light, when I mentioned it to the commission, some members claimed they had no knowledge of it. Then it was, well, it's in the budget, it's not in the budget, it's not going to pass, doesn't have the support, does have the support. And up until this week's meeting, we still haven't got a conclusive answer. Questions like, if the premiums, if our spouses are kicked off the plan, will our premiums go down? Nobody still answered that question. We don't know. And I still disagree with our city, quote unquote, being broke. We're not on the verge of a financial disaster. According to the State Journal, we're sitting on about $8 million. On May 17th, it was showing expenditures for the city for next year estimated at $32.7 million. And on June 14th, it was showing a revenue stream of $32.5 million. That's a difference of only $200,000, which is basically the insurance cost for the spouses. Yet we're going to put $750,000 back in the budget, or surplus, $710,000. But we can't find room to pay for these employees' health insurance. Even if we are broke, I don't care if it's another commission's fault. I didn't agree with all prior commission's decisions. I don't care if it's this commission's fault or the president or who's ever. But I can guarantee you one thing, it's not the employee's fault if we are in this financial disaster. If this proposal passes, though, it will be this commission's fault, and it will be financially devastating to those employees. It's a simple fix, a show of 3 hands, and this can all be changed. It's not too late. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Baker.
I'm Jerry Bailey. I'm sure you know me well by now. I'd like to, first of all, congratulate our fire chief on his national recognition that was reported in the paper in the last week before. I think that is well deserved, and it looks great on the city of Frankfort to have such a national recognition of our fire chief. But I'd like to also respond to some of the comments that were made in regard to the presentation that I presented to you at the last meeting regarding the occupational tax. Since I was unable to respond to some of the comments that were made, I feel like this is the only way I can respond to those appropriately. Commissioner Wilder had mentioned that we need to look at a 100-mile radius rather than the 2-county radius that I proposed dealing with the occupational tax and how that would impact what I think impact the number of people that we would recruit into working to the city of Frankfort. I can't imagine us recruiting someone on a continuous basis who lives 100 miles outside the city of Frankfort. With the price of gas and all of this day and time, that would almost be impossible for somebody to come and work in the city of Frankfort at that 100 miles away. My analysis did include a 2-county radius. You take Franklin County, you map it out, 2 counties all the way around us, and for the most part, it does average about 50 miles around, all the way around, which I think is probably a fairly good average about people who would be willing to come to Frankfort. We do have probably a couple of people that live in Richmond. We may have a couple that live somewhere else, within 2 or 3 more miles beyond my radius. But that would include going out to 3 counties as opposed to 2. And I think my analysis was right on about going as far out to Louisville, Oldham County, Nicholasville, down to Bourbon County, all around us. I think there was a legitimate argument to display how we're going to be impacted by the city occupational tax. It's also been said over and over and over for the last couple of months that the occupational tax will not impact the bottom line of the businesses. The occupational tax itself will not. But that's not what you're going to approve tonight. You're going to approve that as well as an increase in the net profits tax. That does impact individual businesses. I've done some returns for individual businesses in town. And one of the things you've got to put on there is what your net profits is, you take percentage, and it is sort of impacting. The problem with that is, next year when they do their tax return, they got to add that money back because it's not deductible as part of it as an expense. So they get taxed on top of the tax. Commissioner Turner mentioned that on the cities of second class, that we are comparing those. I disagree with that because here are the cities of second class in Kentucky, where they're located. Jeffersontown, 43 miles away. That's included in my 2-county radius. Henderson, 200 miles away. Owensboro, 158 miles away. Ashland, 141 miles away. Bowling Green, 156. Hopkinsville, 215. Ratcliffe, 84. Paducah, 298. Richmond, 52. Lexington, 23, which is included in my analysis. Newport at 92, and Covington at 87. Those are not the people we can compete with. That's not the issue. You can play games with numbers all you want. I've made a valuable career out of it. Let's look at the population. Ms. Hayden mentioned on the population issue. If you look at the cities of the second class, the average population of those cities, not counting Lexington, because it just skews everything up, is 300,000. If you take all the other cities I just mentioned, the average population is around 32,000. That's pretty close to us, not exactly close enough. If you look at the average population of those cities below where we're at today, 1.75, the average population is 33,000. Whole lot bigger than us. They will have the fire departments, they will have the police departments. If you look at our population, the average population, after the increase that we do today, the average population is going to be 91,000. Again, within the range of where we're at. So the problem is, our tax rate is going to be so much more than everybody else around us. Mr. Turner also mentioned there were 4 counties above us, 4 counties below us that had it, 7 counties above us, and we're right in the middle. I'm sorry, Mr. Turner, my math doesn't do it that way. Now, with the increase, we will be in the middle. Because with the increase, there will be 5 cities below us, there will be 6 cities above us, and we'll be tied with 1 city, which will be Jeffersontown, but we'll still be a higher tax rate than them because our net profits tax down will be higher than theirs. So our tax rate is going to be higher than most of the people around us, and that is, without a fact, the truth of what's being said. I also mentioned last time about the average salary, that being $25,800. If we take the average salary and bump that up to $30,000 with the increase, even if 7,500 people come into Frankfort from out of town to pay tax, that will only pay half of our taxes.
Okay, thank you. Any other citizen comments?
Yeah, my name's Travis Kurtzinger. I'm a city employee. Just from the last meeting, I think there may have been a brief misunderstanding between Commissioner Wilder and some of my statements. I do appreciate your support of looking at increased taxes as a way of bringing revenue to the city. When I mentioned that as an alternative to the cuts and the benefits, and that was the point I was trying to make at the last meeting. Is now I brought that up, and I appreciate you considering that, but it's bringing that up as an alternative. Now we're getting hit with both, so I feel like I kind of stuck my foot in my mouth by bringing it up. But as a police officer, I make tough decisions on a daily basis that affect people, much like you all do, just on a smaller scale. And I'm held accountable for those decisions, whether it be a supervisor that's looking at a citation that I've written, whether it's having to go to court and testify on a speeding ticket, or whether it's the state general shows up on a scene that I'm on and wants to know what's going on. I'm going to be scrutinized and I'm going to be accountable for the actions that I do as a city employee. So my question is about accountability. 2 meetings ago, Commissioner Turner brought up that he thought the state and the county both cut their spouses from the insurance plan. I brought up a couple places, including the plant board, that had better insurance than us. You said, I'm sorry to hear that, I'm repeating what I'm told. And I believe that statement. But my question is, where's the accountability? Because it seems to me that some of the decisions y'all are making are based on bad information or inadequate information. Well, we're being told that we've got the best coverage in the city or in the state, and we clearly don't. So if we're not to believe that, how are we to believe that we're going to save $200,000 by cutting the spouses? So I would think that the Human Resources Director would make sure that that information is correct when he brings it to you. Maybe he's going on what HealthSmart's saying. He's just believing HealthSmart, and HealthSmart is giving you bad information. I don't know where the bad information is coming from, but it's coming from HealthSmart. Maybe we need to look at HealthSmart and say, why are you all giving us this information if it's incorrect? So my personal feelings are that we've got some people that are basically telling you all what you want to hear in order to get some cuts made and some cuts passed, because that's what they want to see happen. But the problem with that is some of those people that are making those suggestions don't even receive our benefits. So it's easy to make those decisions when you're not affected by them. If you're going to make a decision, I think it would be based on facts, and it would be proposed to you by people that are also going to be benefited or going to be affected by it. So it's my understanding that there's maybe some departments that are going to have some money left over at the end of this budget, and that would go into a reserve fund. So I would propose that if tonight we pass the budget as it is, that somebody makes a motion for a budget amendment that would remove the health care benefit cuts, and we look at balancing those cuts with any money that's left over from the current year budget instead of putting that money into the surplus, because we're not in business to make money. If we have any money left over, use that money that's left over from this year's budget to help balance these cuts that were made on the employees. And then between now and October, when we're looking at rebidding the insurance, take some input from the employees. We are the ones that are affected by this. We're the ones that see these health insurance cuts. So rather than say, well, we talked about this, and we thought this was the best, ask the employees what we think are the best, because we're the ones that are directly affected by this. That's it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Oh, okay.
I'd just like to take a second to, for the benefit of my co-workers and my staff and my fellow department heads and the public, to let everyone know that I have submitted my notice of retirement for next July 2013. I know that the commissioner is already aware of that, but I feel like it's important to let especially my staff and the public know, so that and also for your benefit, so the city will have ample time to conduct the search for my replacement, and I'll be happy to assist in that task in any way possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations on your award, Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, any other citizen comments? Yes, Commissioner Walker.
If I can make just one kind of blanket response to we're going to discuss the budget, obviously, later in the agenda. If I could just make kind of one blanket response.
this budget was particularly difficult to balance, and a rather difficult compromise was put together last month in order to try and take different pieces from here and there to do something that kind of spreads the pain around. Things that were done to balance this budget include adjusting revenues, so increasing the occupational tax rate by 0.2% while decreasing property taxes by 2%. Cooked into this budget is an adjustment to employee benefits involving spouses that we expect to, with projected savings, I think at this point the projection has been amended to $100,000. One thing I wanted to go ahead and address is the idea of adding money to the surplus. Some departments were coming in under budget towards the end of this fiscal year. We don't anticipate, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, my understanding is that we do not anticipate actually adding any revenue to the reserves at the end of this fiscal year because the money that we would have added to the reserves is being used to make capital purchases, to replace fleet maintenance, like to replace some of the police cars that are needed in the police department, for example, in order to take that burden off in next year's budget. So it's in that money that would have been rolled into the reserves is being used to reduce the budget deficit that we're looking at down the road. I guess I just wanted to get that on the table, and I think we're probably going to hear that it is too late to make any changes to the budget. For what it's worth, I don't think it is, and there are still a couple of changes that I would be in favor of making. We can discuss that when we get to it. But thank you everyone for your comments, for being here today.
And just one other thing, I haven't had time to look at the occupational tax like candidate Bailey has. But for clarification, my question was more of not so much what our population is, but the number of our population that work in another county. Also, how many, the people that work here, one is how many people live in another county and how many people work in another county that live here. For clarification, that's what my question was regarding. Not how many people live in our county compared to how many people live in other second-class cities.
Commissioner
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a quick comment on the removal of spouses from the health insurance program. I think the rest of the commission would agree. I don't like putting words in other people's mouths, but I think the rest of the commission would agree. This is not something that we want to do. It's not something that, when we came up to this budget session that we looked at it and said, man, we really want to remove spouses from the health insurance plan. When we were looking at, okay, where can we cut funds, city staff provided us with a list of big ticket items. Okay, if you need to make up X amount of money, here are your options, almost like an a la carte plan. The other options, after reviewing them, we felt would be much more troublesome for employees here at the city. They included options like fire department brownouts or furloughs, which we all know how that works with state government. The other option when looking at benefits that we looked at but agreed not to because it would be too costly for the employees was making everyone pay at the single rate. And I forget exactly the amount of money that would earn, but it was something almost in the millions, if I'm not mistaken.
1.6.
1.6 million. So, guys, that would have been a lot more difficult on employees if we had taken those other options. We kind of viewed this as the lesser of all of the evils, and that's why I've supported it, because I don't support the other options. I think they're too troublesome to the employees. So this is not something I want to do. It's not something, just like the occupational tax, it's not something I want to do or have looked forward to doing, but it's something that has become a necessity out of studying this budget and looking where we're going. So thank you all.
Just
Commissioner Hedden.
Sorry, Mayor, just one other response to that is that I'm in favor of keeping the spouses in. Because it's also my understanding that there was support to looking at increasing the insurance premium for next year's budget. If that's something we're going to start looking into, and I can't remember the month that was stated that we're going to start looking into that, then I see no reason why we can't keep spouses on the insurance. That's it.
Commissioner May.
Could I just have Officer Sutton asked a question about the, does anybody know the answer to the question when he asked if will premiums go down if spouses are dropped from the city health insurance? Does the city manager or any staff member know the answer to that?
Randy Donahue, could you answer that, please?
Make sure I understand the question. Are you saying are rates going to go down, or would an individual employee's rate go down if they took only an employee and children policy versus a family policy?
I think his question was just, will the premiums go down for those individuals whose spouses are dropped? Is that right?
My understanding is where we're going would be, of course, Wells Fargo presented last April maybe and said that this was probably pretty much a two-step process for the city to move to where other employers were. I expect that they'll be coming back in the next month or two. We'll have open enrollment in October, but yes, is I think the short answer to that question. We have an employee and children tier for all three plans that is less expensive for the employee than a family plan is for that same employee. The rates overall, I don't expect would be going down. And you got to be careful using the term rates since we're self-insured. We really don't have rates because we're not paying somebody to insure us. We have costs. And our costs are driven by claims and administrative costs. The administrative cost is about $150,000 to $200,000 a year. The claims cost is about $3.3 million. So in order for us to cut our rates, we'd have to cut our cost, either the administrative side of the cost or the claim side of the cost, or put more money into it from the city side. Somewhere the cost of the program has to be met through employee premiums and city contributions. So now we do hope to bid it. When we tried to bid it last year with our single 100% co-insurance plan, no insurers would bid it. We hope to bid it, and we think there's a possibility that some other TPAs may bid it, with us staying self-insured, or they may bid it and take the risk. But we would have to look at that. Now the cost may be more instead of less because they'll ask us for a 3-year claims history before they bid it, because they're not just going to put a price on the table without knowing what their exposure is. But does that answer your question, Commissioner?
I think so. I think I just wanted to, since Mr. Sutton brought that up, I just wanted to ask him.
Yes, and I will say, if any employees have any questions, please feel free to contact me or come to my office, and I'll answer to the best of my ability. I'll answer all of them at a time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we're ready to move into the ordinances now. Mr. Moore.
Number 4.1, by title, an ordinance amending ordinance number 1, 2012 series, appropriating the revenue to be received by the city of Frankfort for the fiscal year 2011-2012. Summary: this ordinance amends the city of Frankfort budget for fiscal year 2011-2012 to include grants received after the initial budget was passed. These additional grants total $184,415. All amounts will be reimbursed by the various funding agencies. And this is the second reading.
Okay, I do receive a motion for approval. Commissioner Wade, do I have a second? Commissioner Turner. Any discussion? Commissioner Wilder.
As has been noted, I don't believe it's too late to make an amendment to this proposed budget. And there are a couple of amendments that I'd like to make, and that I guess I'd like us to discuss real quick.
Mr. Moore.
Excuse me, Commissioner Wilder, this is the amendment to the 2011-2012 budget, and number 4.2 would be the...
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page. I'm terribly sorry. I was a page ahead. I'm on page 2.
I'm sorry, I thought that's what it
Yeah.
happened, so I apologize for interrupting.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. No, this is great.
Okay, all right, you need other comments? All right, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Grant?
Yes, so ordinance 4.1 is approved. All right, Mr. Moore.
Ordinance 4.2 by title, an ordinance appropriating the revenue to be received by the City of Frankfort for fiscal year 2012-2013. And by summary, this ordinance appropriates revenue to be received by the City of Frankfort for fiscal year 2012-2013 in accordance with the budget submitted and hereby approved, and this is the second reading.
Okay, do I have a motion for approval of 4.2?
I'll move for approval.
Okay, got Mr. Turner for approval. Have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hidden. All right, discussion.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner Wilder.
Sure. Well, okay, I guess first of all, just to touch on the employee benefits, and I know that I've expressed support for making this change. I think there are two things we need to consider on it. One, obviously, is the impact on the budget, and the impact is estimated to be at about $100,000. And the other is the impact on the folks it affects. We made some other adjustments to the budget that have a much larger impact on the budget. So, for example, shifting between property and occupational taxes is expected to have a much broader impact on the budget with a much less individual impact on the folks it affects. But these benefit changes are expected to cost some employees a few $1,000s a year, so that we can only save $100,000. And I obviously I still believe there's about $250,000 worth of additional budget cuts we could make. At the very least, I guess my first preference would still be to simply set this particular benefit cut aside in light of the fact that employees are going to share in the occupational tax increase, and those who live here are obviously going to share in the property tax decrease as well. But in light of the fact that they already are sharing the rest of the community's burden, I guess my preference would be to find this $100,000 elsewhere. I'd prefer not to take it out of reserves, because our reserves are getting down to a point that could threaten our bond rating in the future. Right now, we're estimating our reserves to finish at the end of this fiscal year between 8.2 and 8.5 million, which is about a quarter of our annual budget. And we have been advised by the financial agencies that we work with that to go below that, and this will push us down. We're taking $400,000 out of reserves right now, and this would push us down to around 8 million. It depends on where we finish the fiscal year at. I'd be hesitant to go below that. So I prefer that we just find this $100,000 in cuts elsewhere, and I obviously have a number of particular spaces I'd be happy to pull out again. But even if we can't find a consensus for those cuts, I still prefer that we amend the budget to not include these cuts to benefits. I mean, I've really struggled with this, but the impact, I think it's disproportionate. and I know that there's two sides to the coin, and I think there's easily justification to be made for making these cuts to benefits, but the fact that it only saves us 100 and it costs a number of employees so much money out of their individual budgets, it's just proportionally it's just not there. So that's one amendment I'd like to see us make, and I believe that should be doable, because I don't think we had a full consensus for making those cuts in the first place anyway. I guess there's a couple other things I'd like to talk about, but I guess first I'd just like to float that. Do we still have?
So your proposal is state your proposal.
Well, maybe I should discuss a little broader first. Then. I mean, there's also, we just found out since the last meeting that there's some other stuff in the budget that we weren't made aware of until the last minute, including a new position, an assistant in the city manager's office. And when I was trying to discuss budget cuts, line cuts, over the last month or two, I asked us to consider taking, I think, just $2,000 out of the, I believe it was contractual labor in the city manager's office. And there was a lot of resistance to making even that cut. And I had a whole stack of little $2,000-$3,000 cuts that added up to a bit over $200,000. And that was the first one we tried to talk about, and the discussion didn't go any further. There was so much resistance to making that cut, and we were told that cut shouldn't be made because that's used to fill in. That contractual labor is used to fill in for the city clerk when she can't make it to a meeting. And we were even specifically told that we wouldn't have somebody on staff who can fill in for the city clerk when she has to take time off. In reality, at that time, even though they hadn't told us, staff were actually interviewing an assistant in the city manager's office to fill that very role. So in other words, both items have been included in the budget. We're hiring somebody who we weren't told about at the time. Who's on today's agenda. We're hiring somebody who can fill in for the city clerk when necessary. And even though we were told that position wouldn't exist just a few weeks ago. And we are not cutting that contractual line item in the city manager's budget. And that's indicative of a deeper problem to me. Because I guess the deeper question I have, the concern that's been keeping me awake at night, is if we didn't know, if we weren't told that those changes were in the budget, and in many ways we were told and again, we were told this position would not be in the budget. But if we're just finding out about this now at the last minute, and folks are going to try and tell us that it's too late to make any changes, but if we're just finding out about this now, what else is in this budget that we don't know about? Because again, we haven't seen a detailed budget. We've seen a summary budget, but we haven't actually gone through a detailed breakdown on exactly what's in this thing.
Okay, do you have a specific?
Well, one of those two. That's one of the. Okay, that is one of the specific suggestions. Is that one of those two items get cut? Do we either cut the funding for this position that we just found out about when it was added to this agenda, to the consent calendar for approval, or that we cut the contractual labor backup for that. This was supposed to serve as a substitute for not having this position. That's one thing. I guess I'd also like to reopen the possibility of deeper cuts. Elsewhere. I have, and I've shared some of this evidence with the commission already, and I've shared it with staff. And I'm sorry to keep bringing up a sore subject, and I know we'll continue to discuss this later. But in broad terms, We know that there have been and there are employees. I'll try to be as non-specific as possible so that I don't get gavelled into silence. But we know that there are some employees in a particular department who are getting paid for hours that they're not actually working, who are claiming hours on their timesheets that they're not actually serving. And so, at the very least, I think we need to make cuts to that particular area of the budget, because that's not something we don't get any. I mean, we don't get any value for that, for the money that's being spent funding folks who actually aren't working all the hours that they're claiming. So those are. I'm happy to discuss taking the budget from any number of places. But I guess okay. Here's the three suggestions, and I'd like to see if we have majority support for any of these three. One is to amend the budget to not take the $100,000 out of employee benefits, because they are going to be sharing in the burden that we're asking of the rest of the community as well. One is to make up for that $100,000 by making an additional $100,000 in cuts, and the other is to either reduce the contractual either the contractual line item in the city manager's budget, or to reduce funding for this position that we still have never even discussed. It's on the consent calendar for approval, and we haven't even had a single public discussion about it, which just blows my mind.
Okay, so you're making three proposals. Let me first of all say, is there any support for any of those proposals?
I support the first one.
Commissioner May.
I'll support the section.
You support the what?
The section being amended regarding the removal of spouse insurance, health insurance.
The first one.
The number one proposal.
And I'll support the first one as well.
That's the same one as he, that's spousal thing. So you got three people who wants to do that. All right, now, you won't have comments how that would affect.
Mr. Dawson, could you come forward, please, to determine how we would fill the gap if we take that provision out of the proposed budget and return that spouse coverage, which would cause a need for $100,000, where would we get that $100,000?
My suggestion would be, firstly, just go ahead tonight with the proposed budget that we have, and then we'll make it a budget amendment, next month, or for the $100,000 to take it, to remove that cost figure from the, or add that cost to the bottom line. Right now we're showing, we still got a gap of about $453,000. That's what we're showing right now. So the gap would be, if we come in at budget levels on expenditure and income side, that's still for a year out, so we just don't know how that's going to play out. I want to go back to one other comment that was made. I projected about $500,000 coming out of reserve this year. We're still not finished. I'm still receiving expenses coming in for this for the month that we're in right now, so we don't know how that's going to finish out. It looks like the income's going to be right on budget, but it looks like the expense side is going to be less than budget, because we've got 20 positions open right now, that we haven't filled. So, I don't know where those expenses are going to come in at. So I can't tell you perfectly, that we're going to, be $500,000 out, or going to be $200,000 out. I don't know exactly where that's going to be right now. So it's still open issue. We're still receiving expenses right now as we speak. They're coming in. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is it fair to say that we're on track to finish the fiscal year in the range of 8.2 to 8.5, or are you saying that
it could fluctuate? It could be
broader than that.
It could be 8.7. It could be 8.7. I don't know. I don't know at this point. I'm seeing it could be, you know, it could be 200,000 or 300,000 down. You know, it's fluctuating between 5 to 7 to, you know, 2 or 3. You know, but I think we're going to be down some. Yes.
Well, in light of that.
So I you know, I can't say perfectly because I
Sure.
don't have a. I wish I had a crystal ball and I could tell you what the expenses are, but we got you know, we don't receive all the invoices for this year until the middle of next month.
Sure.
So, like for example, I'll just give you a couple examples. A couple of big bills that haven't hit yet. My utility bill hadn't hit. My gas bill for the cars, vehicles hadn't hit. You know, there's $100,000 worth of bills right there we hadn't even received, and we're gonna. You know, there's some more out there right now, and I'm trying to get my hands around it, but I can't. You know, I'm talking to the managers trying to figure out what that number's going to be, but I can't sit here to tell you perfectly where that number's going to fall.
Well, in light of that, I'd be.
And I've typically been, you know, conservative with my numbers, so
Sure.
you know, we could fall a little bit better than the, you know, the $500,000 down. We could be 200,000 or 300,000 down. You know.
I'd be amenable to this suggestion then that we, if there isn't support for the other two items I suggested, I'd be amenable to go ahead and passing this budget as is, and then making a budget amendment next month. I obviously still feel very strongly that if we should make that $100,000 up with budget cuts, but if these numbers come in next month and that $100,000 just kind of, I know it's not magic, but if that $100,000 just kind of magically shows up out of the tail end of this budget, then that would make me a lot more comfortable.
You know, I could be,
Sure.
you know, a little conservative in my numbers, but you know, I can tell you right now, I've kind of gone through the actual numbers. I've been watching them every day, and I went through all the head count numbers with my managers, and that's really, you know, we've talked about this before, but that's where our driving cost are, is our employee costs. And we're down, you know, 15, 20 folks, you know. So that's making things the picture look a little brighter, you know, than you know. But who would know that number? You know, I mean, it's difficult to get your arms around that number. But
okay, thank you, Steve.
Okay, so you've got the other two items that you wanted to suggest. State the second one.
The second one is to make up this $100,000 in cuts elsewhere. I'd still be happy to talk about that if there's support for it. I'm happy to see how the numbers that Steve just brought to us pan out next month, because that can always be part. If we're going to make a budget amendment next month, then this can be part of that discussion. But I'd be happy to have a clearer sense of where the numbers stand.
Yeah, okay.
And then the third one is the third one relates to the creation of this new position and the office assistant to the city manager, and this is something I've really struggled with since it came to our attention. And this position only came to our attention when it was added to this agenda under the consent calendar, and it was only added to the agenda since our last work session, so we haven't even had an opportunity to discuss it. It's not a position that I object to. I recognize that there is, at least to some extent, a need for it in the city. This is something that I brought up. That I actually brought up and pushed for last year prior to the last budget cycle, and at the time there was not majority support on the commission for adding this item. I think folks recognize it, you know, across the board that there's a need for it, but like lots of things in the city that there's a need for. The budget's tight, and it went unfunded, and so I'm not really clear on how this happened. I mean, I assume that either staff took it upon themselves to put this in, which I believe is what happened, or the only alternative is that some majority of the commission, outside of a public meeting, expressed support for this, and I trust this commission not to do that, so I really don't believe that's what happened. But just in terms of procedure and principle, I just have deep concerns with the lack of transparency surrounding this appointment, and the fact that it's still on the consent calendar is an even deeper concern, because it's a general rule of the city's policy to not discuss items that are on the consent calendar. They're listed. There's 35 different items that are put together into one vote here, and it's been the city's policy as long as I've been here to remove items from the consent calendar to allow discussion at the request of a single commissioner, and I did request that. That request was even backed up by another commissioner, and yet it's still on the consent calendar. So first of all, I'd like to know when that policy changed, when and why that policy changed. I mean, but the fact that we haven't discussed this position, the fact that it has come out of nowhere, and the fact that some kind of effort is being made and some kind of policy change has been made, it kind of de facto discourages or even prevents a discussion of this position before we vote on it. Even though I'm inherently supportive of the position, that the principle of that really concerns me, and I would hope that it concerns a majority of the commission. I mean, even if folks have changed their mind and now do support funding this position, I still think the principle of the matter is pretty troubling, and principle does matter. Principle sets a precedent, and I really don't think it's wise for us to set a precedent whereby this kind of thing can happen, and we can have a new position established without the commission's knowledge or consent. And make no mistake, I mean, this position, we've already, a round of interviews have already taken place. Somebody's already been selected. This process went really far along without the commission being made aware of it. And just that, even if we do support this position, I really think that's something that I think it sets a very dangerous precedent if we allow this kind of thing to happen, if we allow the process to play out this way. So in light of that, I would, and apparently the funding for this position was included in the budget, and we were kind of de facto told that it wasn't in the budget, that we wouldn't have somebody on staff who could fill this very role when I was trying to make another budget cut. And so again, so I guess my third suggestion would be to cut the funding from this position from this budget. And if we want to add it in an amendment later, if we want to have a discussion about whether or not we should hire this position and go through the proper process, then I'd be happy to engage in that discussion. I'm not willing to approve the position under these circumstances. I think we need to go through a more transparent process.
Commissioner Turner. Thanks, Mayor. Just a quick comment that I'm not in favor of the other two proposals of Commissioner Wilder, but I will say that I did respond via email, which I think is open records. You get through open records if you'd like, or you can email me and I'll forward it to you. But I did respond that I would like to have that assistant city clerk position moved to an agenda item and not on the consent calendar. I think there is an extent of so often the city government, they operate on a daily basis and they know what they need to do and all of that. I think that more than anything, I don't think that there was any deception by this being added on there. I just think that it was a miscommunication, and I have since talked with the city staff and have requested that for any future event remotely close to this, that before we even get to the interview process, that it's provided to the commission or brought to the commission's attention and discussed. And I think staff was amenable to that request. So I believe that's where I stand on those two points.
Any other support? for Commissioner Wilder's position on this.
Then I'm happy, Mayor, to go ahead and present the budget as submitted and to bring up discussion of an amendment next month.
Okay. Call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Mayor Graham.
No, so it does pass. All right, go ahead.
Ordinance 4.3 by title, an ordinance relating to the increase in the occupational license tax rate and the net profits tax rate on business entities or persons conducting business or engaging in businesses, occupations, and professions within the city of Frankfort. By summary, this ordinance amends sections 110.02, 110.03, and 110.04 to increase the occupational license fee rate and net profits tax rate from 1.75% to 1.95%.
Okay, do I have a motion for ordinance 4.3?
So moved.
Commissioner Turner, you got a second? Commissioner Wilder, any discussion? Commissioner Wilder.
I do want to note that I said that I'm happy to support this as long as it is accompanied by a property tax decrease. In terms of the reporting requirements and timing, that decrease has to be voted on in the next fiscal year. But in anticipation of, we have, the commission has discussed this, and that is the majority's intent, stated intent is to pass that decrease when that time comes. So in light of that, I'm happy to do this. It's for what it's worth. Just by way of explanation, the city does. We have a population of 27,000, and our workforce, by some accounts, our workforce doubles during the weekday. So all the folks who come in from out of town to work here, and the city does have to maintain an infrastructure larger than other cities our size in order to accommodate all that extra population. So we do have to maintain a police force and a fire force and streets and roads for much more than 27,000 people. And I do think it's, and this adjustment isn't a big hit, but it does spread that burden a little more towards the folks who come in from out of town to work here, which I really think is only fair because, well, I guess for the reasons I just stated.
Any other comments? I'll call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Mayor Graham.
No.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
I changed my vote to no. I was sitting here thinking about,
We almost got you twice this year.
I was going to say something.
Out of the garbage feed.
So
I was thinking about,
it does
Mayor
pass,
Graham.
3-2.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, ordinance 4.3 is
I was looking at,
continue, Mr.
Ordinance 4.4 by title, an ordinance amending section 37.37 of the City of Frankfort Code of Ordinances, longevity salary adjustments. Summary, this amendment provides for longevity pay of 1% in 3-year service increments for employees of the City of Frankfort.
Okay, we have a motion for approval of ordinance 4.4.
Move for approval, Mayor.
All right, Commissioner Turner, approval. Second, Commissioner Hadden. Any comments? Commissioner Turner.
I just want to say that this is a long time coming. I know many employees have worried about what's going to happen to their longevity pay. They can rest assured tonight that while it's not what it once was, their longevity pay will be restored. And I will be proud to cast my vote as yes for this. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
yes.
Mayor Graham.
No. Ordinance 4.4 is approved. Okay, now,
Ordinance 4.5, title, an ordinance to amend the City of Frankfort's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 152, by amending the City of Frankfort zoning regulations, Article 12, minimum off-street parking requirements, Sections 12.02, 12.03, 12.04, 12.06, 12.07, 12.08, and 12.09 of the City of Frankfort's zoning ordinance. Summary. This ordinance amends the city's zoning ordinance, Article 12, parking requirements by reducing the number of parking spaces required for specific uses, to provide incentives for sites providing permeable parking surfaces, to clarify parking designs, and to add requirements for drive-through lanes, and this is a first reading.
Okay, without any objection, we will approve first reading for ordinance 4.5. Okay.
Ordinance 4.6, by title, an ordinance to amend the City of Frankfort's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 152, by amending the City of Frankfort zoning regulations, Article 19, conditional uses, Sections 19.710, 19.711, and 19.714 of the City of Frankfort zoning ordinance. Summary. This ordinance amends the city zoning ordinance, Article 19, conditional uses, by conditionally allowing by conditional use barbershops, beauty shops, mobile pet grooming, massage therapists, and internet sales. And this is the first reading.
Okay, without objection, we will accept the first reading of ordinance 4.6.
Ordinance 4.7 by title, an ordinance amending Frankfort Code of Ordinance, Chapter 36, Disaster and Emergency Services Agency, Section 36.095, Agency Created Director, and Section 36.096A, Acquisition of Surplus Property. Summary, this ordinance renames the Disaster and Emergency Services Agency to the Office of Emergency Management.
Okay, without objection, we will approve first reading for 4.7.
Number 4.8 by title, an ordinance amending Frankfort Code of Ordinances, Chapter 97, Hazardous Materials, Section 97.01, Establishment of Hazardous Material Response Team. Summary, this ordinance places the Hazardous Materials Response Team under the supervision of the City of Frankfort Fire Department.
Okay, without objection, we will accept the first reading of 4.8. That concludes the ordinances. Now down on orders.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 5.1 is an order authorizing a management agreement for the Juniper Hill Golf Course. And this order is to consider renewal of the management agreement for the Juniper Hill Golf Course, an agreement with Kirk Shuley, the PGA certified golf professional, and the pro shall receive an annual salary of $35,000 plus 10.3% of the revenues received for golf cart rentals up to a maximum of $16,500.
Okay, do I have a motion pertaining to order 5.1? Commissioner May for approval. Do I have a second? Commissioner Hedden? Any comments? Okay, please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hedden?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes, so order 5.1 is approved. Now, resolutions having done. Down to the consent calendar. Mr. Goins.
Thank you, Mayor. This is probably the longest consent calendar in the history of Frankfort City government. Item 7.1, to authorize a bid award to low bidder Construction Solutions of Kentucky Incorporated for the Myrtle Avenue Sidewalk Replacement Project, an amount not to exceed $55,924, and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents. Item 7.2, to authorize a bid award to low bidder Construction Solutions of Kentucky Incorporated for the repair, replacement of concrete sidewalk along Sunset Drive for an amount not to exceed $52,250, and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents. Item 7.3, to authorize a bid award to low bid Construction Solutions of Kentucky Incorporated for the repair, replacement of concrete sidewalks and curbs in the South Frankfort area east of Capitol Avenue and south of East 4th Street for an amount not to exceed $68,735, and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents. Item 7.4, to authorize the purchase of 3 24-passenger, 2 wheelchair lift-equipped buses with security cameras and 1 low-flow minivan with wheelchair ramp under Kentucky Public Transit Association bid packet number 5, awarded January 28 of 2011, and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents. The total cost of the 3 buses and the minivan are $291,400 and is 100% federally funded, and no city match is required. Item 7.5, to authorize a contract with Chase Payment Check to provide the credit card service for the online payment system for the city of Frankfort, and additionally all other related documents for the online payment system, including paymentus documents, and to authorize the mayor to sign all related documents. And this will enable the taxpayer to pay fees and taxes online at the city of Frankfort. Item 7.6, to authorize a 1-year agreement with Essential Safety LLC for the 2012-2013 budget year, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with the agreement. This is an award and agreement for health and safety training for the sewer department and helps us stay in compliance with the OSHA regulations. The contract is not to exceed $12,000. Item 7.7, to authorize the submission of a letter of interest in the Environmental Protection Agency's Greening America's Capitals Initiative to promote the principles of smart growth, green building, and the partnership of sustainable communities, and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents. Item 7.8, to authorize contract award to Kenny Incorporated for construction in the amount of $1,462,205 to install approximately 12,460 feet of gravity sewer and force main and an 800 gallons per minute pump station at the Boone National Guard property, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to this project. This project will combine the 3 stations into 1. Item 7.9, to authorize the mayor to sign a service agreement between the Franklin County Health Department and the city of Frankfort. And this will include, but not be limited to, vaccines, boosters, certain health screenings, and tests. Item 7.10, to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement between Safety National Casualty Corporation and the city of Frankfort. This is to provide excess worker compensation coverage for the period of July 1, 2012 through June 30, 2013. Item 7.11, authorization to amend an engineering contract with HMB Professional Engineering Incorporated for the design of the pump station at Fort Boone National Guard Center, and authorize the mayor to sign all project-related documents. This brings the total amount of this contract to $244,000. Item 7.12, to authorize amendment number 2 to an engineering services agreement with URS Corporation for design services to replace an undercapacity sewer line along Slickway Branch near US 60 and I-64, and to authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to this amendment. This brings the total amount of this contract to $227,080. Item 7.13, to authorize contract award to Basham Construction and Rental Company for the rehabilitation of approximately 500 feet of failing brick sewer in the on West Main Street, and replacement of approximately 250 feet of failing 12-inch gravity sewer in Catfish Alley, and to authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to this project. This will be in the amount of $248,467 as the lowest responsible bidder. Item 7.14, to authorize a contract award to Inland Water Pollution Control for the rehabilitation of approximately 3,100 feet of large diameter sewer in the area of Blanton Acres, and to authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to this project. Item 7.15, to authorize award of an engineering contract, O'Brien and Gear Engineers Incorporated, for engineering services to replace the Miami Trail Pump Station, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with this contract. The total contract is not to exceed $53,080. Item 7.16, to authorize award of an engineering agreement to Hazen and Sawyer PSC for an engineering study on repairing or replacing the interceptor line for Elkhorn Drive to Choctaw Trail, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with this project. The total contract amount for this project is not to exceed $42,300. Item 7.17, to authorize amendment number 3 to an engineering services agreement with QK4 for a stormwater separation project to remove stormwater from Louisville Hill Road, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with this agreement. Removal of this stormwater will reduce the load on both the Ewing Street Pump Station and the wastewater treatment plant. And the total amount of this contract is $295,000. Item 7.18, to authorize contract award of a contract to Smith Contractors Incorporated for the construction of a separate stormwater pipe on Louisville Hill Road and the relocation of a portion of the Ewing Street force main, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with this contract. Removal of the stormwater will reduce the load on both the Ewing Street Pump Station and the wastewater treatment plant. The engineer recommends awarding the contract to Smith Contractors, which is the lowest qualified bidder, at $1,181,686.70. Item 7.19, to authorize to authorize approval of amendment number 1 to an engineering agreement with HDR Engineers for the Willcrest I&I reduction project, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with the agreement. This will bring the total amount of this contract to $151,000. Item 7.20, to authorize rebidding and contract award to Leak Eliminators LLC for the rehabilitation of approximately 4,500 feet of gravity sewer main and 30 manholes in the Myrtle Avenue Sewer Phase 2 project, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated to the project. This project will rehabilitate the pipe and mitigate 3 sanitary sewer overflows in the area. The engineer recommends awarding the contract to Leak Eliminators LLC, the lowest qualified bidder, at $678,591. Item 7.121, to authorize award of a professional services agreement to DLZ Kentucky to serve as the wet weather program manager for the City of Frankfort Sewer Department, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with this agreement. The agreement has a cap of $250,000, and tasks will be authorized and executed by individual work orders. Item 7.22, to authorize bid award to LC doing business as Q's for a complete van with CCTV camera equipment installed and all related accessories, and to surplus 1 camera truck, and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents. The bid is recommended to be awarded to LC doing business as Q's, the lowest responsible bidder, with a bid of $177,800. Item 7.23, to authorize Amendment 3 to add additional funds to the agreement with Hazen and Sawyer PSC for an engineering study on repairing or replacing interceptor line on Swigert Avenue to the Kentucky River, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with the agreement. This brings this contract to a total of $268,700. Item 7.24, to authorize contract award to MAC Construction for construction of approximately 1,900 feet of gravity sewer up to 24-inch diameter located between Parkside Development and US 421, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to this project. The engineer recommends awarding contract to MAC Construction in the amount of $1,342,000 as the lowest responsible bidder. Item 7.25, to authorize the mayor to sign the second-year contract of a 3-year agreement with ESRI for an enterprise license agreement for GIS software, and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents. This brings that total agreement to $35,750. Item 7.26, to authorize a bid award for a 1-year supply contract for road salt to Cargill Incorporated De-icing Technology, and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents. We have chosen Cargill Incorporated De-icing Technology at $71.79 per ton based on their past delivery history. Item 7.27, to approve the signing of an agreement between the City of Frankfort and Kentucky Logos LLC for a new tourist attraction sign for the archery area of Cold Spring Park and all related documents, and any related documents. Item 7.28, to authorize a bid award to Meyer Midwest Incorporated to construct an energy-efficient vestibule entrance to the lobby of the wastewater treatment plant, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with this project. The city received only one bid, and it was from Meyer Midwest in the amount of $53,600. Item 7.29, to authorize award of an engineering contract to Girdler Associates Incorporated for engineering services to evaluate the partially completed Twilight Trail pump station, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with this contract. The total contract amount is not to exceed $10,000. Item 7.30, to authorize award of a contract to Stuart Ritchie Construction Incorporated for repairs of sewers along Marlowe Court, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with this project. The contract amount will be $170,685.60. Item 7.31, to approve a continuing 1-year term service agreement with RCS Communications to provide 24/7 coverage and support for all E911 infrastructure and related equipment, which includes all associated parts, labor, and travel, and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents. Item 7.32, to authorize approval of a memorandum of agreement with the U.S. Department of Interior, Fish and Wildlife Service, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with the MOA. Item 7.33, to approve a memorandum of agreement with the U.S. Department of Interior, Fish and Wildlife Service, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with the MOA. Item 7.34, to authorize the filing of an application for 2012 DHS FEMA assistance for firefighters grant funds for the fire department, and authorize the mayor to sign all grant-related documents. Item 7.35 of personnel actions. We have 2 retirements. One is Jimmy Trussell from the Public Works Department, and the second one is retirement of Richard Long from the Sewer Department. Promotion of Adam Curry in the Parks Department from Parks Maintenance Worker to Golf Course Superintendent, and the appointment of Alex Cunningham for the Office Assistant position. Also, permission to make 2 conditional job offers for the position of Parole Officer 1 in order to continue in-depth background investigations of candidates. The positions are to replace officers that resigned or retired in recent months. These conditional job offers are contingent upon successful completion of physical, psychological, polygraph, and drug screen examinations. And Mayor, this concludes consent.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion for the approval of the consent?
Mayor?
calendar? Oh, yes, sir. Mr.
Just briefly, we do have a vote modification form that's been filed by Commissioner Wilder with respect to consent agenda item number 735, whereby his vote on item 7.35 is changed from yay to nay. Just for the record, I wanted to state that.
Although, I would,
Let's see, I get a motion. Let's get a motion.
okay.
Move for approval.
You got a second?
Second.
Okay, second, yes, Commissioner Wilder.
Like I said, as long as I've been on the commission, it's been policy to remove items from the consent calendar for discussion in a separate vote at the request of a single commissioner. That policy seems to have changed. I guess I'd like to know when it changed, who changed it and why. Because we've had 2 requests to remove this personnel action from the consent calendar so we could actually discuss it before voting on it. So why wasn't it removed?
This is parliamentary procedure. Could you give us an update on that, or?
My understanding is that once you actually have the agenda prepared and in writing, then it would take a majority of the commissioners to remove it from the agenda before it's actually been issued, when it's still in the discussion stage. When one member of the commission has requested it be removed, at that time it would be removed from the discussion item. I guess the problem is that the request was not made until the agenda had actually been issued, and I understand that you weren't aware of the item until the agenda had been actually issued, but it's my understanding that's how it's been administered in the past. Again, prior to the agenda being issued, one commissioner can request that an item be removed, and it will be removed from the consent agenda once it's been typed up and issued. At that point, it takes a majority of 3 because it takes a vote of 3 because it is at that point an official agenda.
I'm used to the agenda being issued the Friday before a meeting. This request was made on Thursday. Was the agenda issued early?
I believe this agenda was issued early because Ms. Newman was going to be
City clerk was going to be absent. However, I can't say absolutely that I with the sequence of things that happened, I cannot say absolutely one way or another. I would have to check emails and look at that type of thing. As a question of parliamentary procedure, could this, even at this point, could this not be removed with majority of vote and put on new business?
If 3 commissioners wanted to do that, it certainly could.
At this point?
At this point, and I agree with the city manager that the final agenda may not have come out until, I'm not sure exactly when it came out. It may have come out Friday morning, because if you all will recall, the city clerk was out, I believe, on Thursday, but then came in briefly Friday morning and then left early in the day because she had company in from out of town.
So it is not too late to, if the majority wants to remove this, it's not too late.
I guess I would like to make that motion just so we can discuss this before we vote on it. We haven't had
okay, do we have a second to this?
I'll second it, but I'm more than happy to move forward too. But I'll second that.
Okay, is there any discussion? We've got a motion for, okay, call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
No.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
I'll vote yes, just based on past policy of just discussion, because the commissioner could bring this up under new business or old business anyway, so it doesn't make any real procedural difference, I don't think. So I'll vote yes.
Mayor Graham?
No, so it does pass. So we have it now, standing alone. So we can have a motion on the the rest of the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the rest of the consent calendar.
Okay? Now we've already had, we already had a second, I believe, with consent calendar, did we not?
Did we have that? That motion was on the table. You're right, Mayor.
Yeah. So we will call the roll for this consent calendar.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes?
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes. Okay. So now we have to deal with the,
Thank you, Mayor.
Which line item are we at? Are we at old business or new business?
Board appointments.
Board appointment.
oh, okay. No.
I thought we were going to discuss that.
All right.
Let's move to new business.
There are no board appointments.
Can we recess for 30 seconds and let the tape be changed by the clerk?
Sure. I'll move to recess for a full minute.
Okay.
Sure.
She called, I didn't get a chance to call her back today. But I got your emails.
One item under new business.
I always did that when I was mayor. I said, if somebody wants to talk about something, if there's no other objection, take it off. If we don't have a good yet, we leave it on. Most people do bad, take it off. No big deal. No big deal.
Ready? Clerk's ready.
Okay, ready to reconvene, all right? Oh, well, reconvene and ready for old business. Any old business? We'll talk about this on the new business.
Okay.
Any old business? Okay, no old business, and now we.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor. I do have some pieces of old business.
All right, Commissioner Wilder.
It's been I normally reserve these questions for a work session, but it's been over a month since we've had a regular work session that without a restricted agenda. It's just the nature of circumstances. I guess first of all, I'd just be curious to know if there's any update on the CSX line running adjacent to East Main.
There is, I think the commission is aware that the Pensley portion of the trail has been obtained from Pensley. It's my understanding that if work has not started on that portion, it will start in the near future. And I believe there was a grant application submitted in connection with that portion. With respect to CSX, I have left at least 3 calls to CSX within the last 2 months, and also sent another letter down to CSX asking them to return my call, and then contacted my prior contact who had been good about talking with us and asked him to return my call to confirm that I had the proper information about the new contact, and he has not returned my call. So right now, the status is that CSX is very difficult to get to return your call. So we're continuing to call them once a week and see if we can get a hold of them.
This might be a question for Jeff then, or if he's around, or for Public Works. There you are. I understand that we have acquired the Pensley stretch, and that they were really eager to give us that that piece of abandoned track. How much value is there in working on the Pensley stretch without having that last leg? I mean, to my mind, the CSX leg, stretch is crucial. If that's not if you got a different opinion, I'd be really happy to hear it.
I guess I'm get up to date. The stretch going up the hill, the old rail bed, doing that portion of the work without doing the work where there's that grade change where the concrete retaining wall comes out. Is that what you're asking?
Concrete retaining wall. No,
there's about a 4-foot barrier onto the path itself.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're saying, is to go ahead and fix the rest of the trail where it's already at grade?
Well, no, I'm wondering if, let's say hypothetically that we for some reason or another never obtained access to this abandoned rail line, the CSX owns. Is there any, and it connects to the Pensley line after a relatively short distance. The CSX portion is relatively short. Is there any, or a question for Mark, is there any value in working on the Pensley part without having
What we
the
would
last
do,
name?
we would have a trail from K-State down to the Pensley, and it would just be an overlook up to the top part if we couldn't connect, and then you'd have to go back, but it still would be a nice trail. But they would not be able to get down to the city, which we were trying to do.
Yeah.
Make it easier for people, for walkers and bikers to take a shortcut. But that would be still a feasible thing to do, but if we don't get that other part, I don't know how we'll be able to connect when they get down.
Sure. That answers my question. Well, I would, for what it's worth, I'd be I assume we've been asking CSX rather politely thus far.
Yes.
I think, seeing as how this is a public safety issue, and we have seen some pedestrians and cyclists get hurt over the last couple of years for lack of alternative accommodations. So in light of that, I would be in favor of us starting to take a stronger tone with CSX until they at least acknowledge our existence and start communicating with us.
We'll make sure we get a hold of them and make sure that they review the issue and give us a response.
Thanks, Rob. On a related note, the state budget set aside funds to do a traffic study for downtown. And we have our local representatives to thank for that, and we are very grateful to them for that. I guess I'm just. Do we have a timeline or a time frame for dealing with that? And this would be in relation to converting some of the streets from one-way use to two-way use.
Well, it's related to a traffic study, and Representative Derek Graham really helped us in the state budget, and we have $100,000 appropriated for that. And Mr. Hackbart has been in contact with the proper state people. Would you come up, Mr. Hackbart, and tell us what they've told us thus far?
We contacted the Transportation Cabinet. It's in the 6-year plan. The budget year, it's slated for 2013. So they told the representative I've talked to at the Highway Department said they would contact us when they're ready to go. So I don't have a date at this time. We're just in communication with the cabinet back and forth.
If I may add, please, Commissioner. If you don't mind, try getting in contact with the state again, because I had, at the request of some citizens, contacted the state just to ask about the study and what it was about, and they informed me that the funding will be available as of 7/1/12. So we may be able to get this going faster than what we thought originally, and the advantage of doing that is because we're up against the wall with the Judicial Center completion. So if you don't mind, I'd like to request that we make another contact as quickly as possible to see if that is in fact correct.
Sure, I will do that.
You just keep us updated. Very interested in the project.
Yes.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. By the way, just a note to that, the amount of funding that we have received, we are hoping will allow us to do a broader study than we at first talked about.
That's great.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, any more old business? Right, now we move into new business. Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe we've got two pieces of new business. One is under board appointments. We have agreed to make an ex officio appointment to the Franklin County Humane Society Board. There was one name on the table. I believe two folks have expressed interest in the position, Susan Jeffers and Alinda Thomas. Susan Jeffers was recently voted on to the regular Humane Society Board. So I'd be in favor of going ahead and nominating, and this has been on the table for a long time, and I think folks have had plenty of time to express interest in the position. And seeing as how there's one person left standing, I'd be in favor of going ahead and nominating Linda Thomas to serve as the city's ex officio representative on the Franklin County Humane Society Board as a, I believe it was as a non-voting member.
Do you have a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion on it? Okay, call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
I'll vote yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. The other piece of new business being the hiring of this office assistant. Like I said, I recognize the value in this position. But I do have some reservations with the fact that first of all, with the fact that it came up without any expressed majority support from the commission for budgeting for this. And I do have reservations about the fact that we were told while that process was in place, while the hiring process was in place and the search for this position was in place, that we would not have somebody on staff to fill this function next year. So in light of, I'd hate for us to set a precedent whereby that kind of thing is okay. Even though I do inherently recognize the value in the position. And I guess the deeper problem I have with the fact that this hiring process went on and that there was, the commission wasn't made aware of it, we weren't given any opportunity for discussion when it came to the establishment of this position. And again, I bring this up as someone who lobbied for this position prior to the last budget. But a case I made at the time is that I think that our city clerk does need an assistant, but particularly, and not just because the time crunch is difficult. And I think we've all noted that if we need to have a commission meeting and the mayor can't make it, or if one of the commissioners can't make it, or even if the city manager can't make it, or if a department head can't make it, then we can still go on without, we can get through a commission meeting while missing any one of those given positions. The one thing we can't do is hold a commission meeting without the participation of a city clerk or a backup. Thank you, Vicki, for being here today. So I recognize, obviously, the value in having a backup there, and in having an assistant to the city clerk. However, in the 21st century, there's a lot of technology that could assist the city clerk, and I think there are also, in terms of presenting agendas and making information available to the public, etc. I think there's a lot of value in having somebody associated with that position with a strong grip of 21st century technology. Somebody who understands digitized media, who can work on actually getting agendas online and collated. A lot of this ties into the changes that the commission has made or has requested to the city's website over the duration of this term. And a number of those changes have been forthcoming, and I think we made a lot of progress with the website. But in terms of the ideal, if we want a digital forum that can really give citizens an even deeper access to their city government, one of the things we discussed as being an ideal place to get to would be, let's say we have a website where we videotape all of our meetings. We make those videos online. We also make all of our agendas and minutes available online. But the agendas can actually be linked to the videos in ways such that for example, let's say somebody's only interested in one particular item of discussion. They're only interested in item 5.1 on the agenda. And they have to watch an hour of video, or they have to shuffle through an hour of video to find the one conversation they're looking for. There are cities out there that have their agendas linked to the video so that somebody can actually just look at the agenda, see where the item they want is on the agenda, and then actually skip to that portion of the video. And then can even leave comment on the videos, non-anonymous comments that are collected as citizen comments, and share with the commission. Because right now we accept citizen comment. Right now somebody either has to send a letter to City Hall, send an email to everyone, or actually come to a commission meeting and voice their concerns at the commission meeting. And that's really kind of the ideal way to accept citizen comment, because then it's all open, it's all on the table when somebody comes to a meeting and talks to us. But an alternative that some cities have is to actually accept those comments online and accept them as citizen comments that are incorporated into the record, or that are kind of officially approved and acknowledged during the course of business. So that they're even maybe read out loud as citizen comments and accepted. But the point of the matter is that when you're dealing with that kind of stuff, a lot of that crosses over into the city clerk's territory. When you're talking about minutes, anything that has to do with minutes or with the agenda, et cetera, is in the city clerk's purview. And in order for that system to work holistically and for everything to function together, I think you really need someone in that position who can work well with digitized media. And that would have, and when I first brought up the possibility of hiring essentially this position last year, that was my big criteria for it, is that we seek somebody out who has an understanding of digitized media, who would be able to come to the table and actually work with it in that capacity. And my understanding is that, I mean, I'm sure this person could be, I'm sure Mr. Cunningham, or is it Mrs. Cunningham? I'm not sure. Is it Mr. or Mrs. Cunningham?
Miss.
Miss. I'm sure Miss Cunningham can be trained to do that. My understanding is that she doesn't come to the table with that particular skill set.
Your understanding is that she does or does not
That she does not come to the table with that particular skill set. What is that?
Mr. Donahue, could you answer that question about the applicant's level of electronic skill or knowledge of software?
Do you know if she has any experience with automated agendas, or was that even part of the application process?
I don't have the application in front of me. We did, when we posted it, we posted college degree preferred, but not required. And it was posted strong computer skills and Microsoft Office type software. So those were some of the criteria that we applied. But as far as something more specialized and technical, no. In fact, I don't believe any of the candidates. I think we're talking about a pretty specialized field to find somebody. So while several of the top candidates had experience working with large Word documents or doing Excel spreadsheets or merging like addresses from spreadsheets into Word documents for a mail merge or something. I don't recall any of the candidates having a real digital background, if that's the right terminology. But I do think that the top 3 or 4 candidates all had good computer skills. So I think there is some training
rudimentary basic to be built on.
Yeah, I would say even more than rudimentary. I think the top 2 or 3 candidates I thought had displayed and at least came across to those of us that did the interviews as having good computer skills.
Thanks, Randy. Well, I do appreciate the commission taking this off the consent calendar just to allow for even this level of discussion before we vote on it. Even though on one hand, even though I do recognize the value of this position, I still had to vote against it just because the commission was cut out of the process. But I think I've said my piece.
And I'll just add, I think that the criteria that Commissioner Wilder set up with regards to experience in digital equipment, I think that those are all valuable qualities that we want to foster in this position as it goes forward. I think it would be a benefit to the city to do that. Having this position here at this point will give us an opportunity for increased training, and I certainly hope that we take advantage of that. Move that we approve the position.
Excuse me. Because we removed item 7.35 from the consent agenda, of course, item 7.35 contains more than just one item.
Okay.
So at this point, the commission can either make a motion to approve all of 7.35, which includes the retirements, the promotions, and the appointment, and then the permission to make the conditional job offers. So that's one way it could do it. Another way would be to make a pretty good sized motion to approve the retirements and the promotion and the permission to make conditional job offers. Vote on that motion first, and then make a separate motion on the appointment of Alex Cunningham to the city manager office. So you can either do it as one, just move to approve 7.35 as written, or break it into two motions.
I will make a motion to approve it as written.
I'll second.
7.35. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hayden is a second. All right, any discussion? Okay, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder,
No, I'm still going to vote no on principle. I support these other changes, but I assume that they are going to pass. If they don't, we can hold a revote.
Commissioner Hadden,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Mayor Graham.
Yes, so the 7.35 is approved. Any other new business? Commissioner Hayden.
I think everyone got something in their mailbox in regard to the 1200 block of Equestrian Way in the Silver Lake subdivision. I've been, they called me over to take a look, and I've given information to the city manager, Craig Goins, and they just want to be put on a work session to have their information discussed. They'd like to come in front of the board. I'm just asking to see if there's approval to get them on the next work session.
Fine with me.
Fine with me.
Great. I'm fine with me, there's three.
We can do that. Yeah.
All right, any other new business? Okay, then we're down to closed session. I move we go into closed session per KRS 61.810.1C regarding to litigation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner May. Call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden,
Yes?
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Mayor Graham.
Yes, so we will not go into closed session.